Hey guys, welcome to another one of my watch reviews here. Today we're going to have more of a discussion than a review per se. I want to address the question that I get asked quite a bit, which is that are Rolexes really worth the money? And that question is a very individual question based on what exactly it is you're looking for in a timepiece. But I figured I'd give you a little bit of information to help you decide what you think is more appealing to you. So, I guess to start with, the perceived sense of value. Rolexes are very expensive, this is true. They are far and away more expensive than the majority of the watches on the market, but they are also not top tier. And by top tier, I mean they are not a Patek Philippe, a Vacheron and Constantin, or an Audemars Piguet. And while they can get very expensive and the masterpieces can go well over $100,000, there are watches you can spend $600,000 or $1 million on. So are they expensive? Yes. Are they the most expensive? Not even close. But as a timepiece goes, you can buy a watch at Walmart, for example, for $8 or $9, which will tell time too, or you can tell time on your cell phone. So cost is relative to what exactly you expect it to do. So if you're solely purchasing a watch as a means of telling time, no, Rolexes are not worth the money, because there are far cheaper alternatives to find ways to keep time. If you're looking for a good investment, Rolexes are a great purchase. I purchase Rolex like I purchase stocks. You buy one at a good price, you keep it a couple years, odds are you'll get your money back out of it, you might even make a little bit of a profit. Not too many things in life you can say that about, apart from homes now and then. Are you guaranteed to make a profit on them? No. Are you guaranteed to break even? No. But odds are you're going to do alright with them. They hold their value pretty well. You go pick up any other watch that's not a common luxury brand, and I'd say not even a common luxury brand, but like a well-respected luxury brand, and even some well-respected luxury brands, you're going to lose your money on them. Most of them are going to plummet right after you buy them. Most common watches that people buy from like department stores, once you buy it, they're essentially worthless. So if you're looking at purchasing a watch strictly as an investment, you could do far worse than to purchase a Rolex. Rolexes are a very good investment. If you buy well, if you research what a good price is and you hold on to it for a while, you're going to do alright. You know, there are other watches out there that do well as well. Patek Philippe, for example, or some Vacheron and Constantin, not all, but Along and Son. There's a couple other ones out there as well, but they are a decent investment. Like I said, if you're looking to buy a watch as an investment and strictly as an investment, Rolex is a good deal. There are other good deals out there. Majority of watches out there, you buy them, after you buy them, they're worthless or they depreciate like mad. Not really a problem with a Rolex if you're smart and you buy wholesale or you buy them used. If you're looking for a watch as a piece of timekeeping, in terms of you want to have something you can appreciate the design that went into it and the thoughtfulness that went into it, there's some other things you want to consider then about it. You know, one of the things that people really pride Rolex on is that they are a manufacturer of their own movements. Kind of a badly kept secret in Swiss watchmaking world is that a lot of very expensive Swiss watches have generic movements from companies like ETA, where they basically take a blank movement, they put a couple pieces of decoration on it and finish it out and put it in their watch. What does this really mean? If you're thinking of this in car terms, it's like somebody taking a really good Chevrolet Corvette motor out of a Chevrolet Corvette, popping it into a Ferrari, and, you know, would you be okay with that? Yes, it's a really reliable motor. Yes, it will make the car go fast, but you're not spending $300,000 for a Chevy motor. You know, some people don't have an issue with it, some people do. You know, a lot of Swiss watches out there, they're getting better, but up until recently, the majority of Breitlings and Omegas and Tag Heuers, for example, all use the equivalent of a Chevy motor in them, albeit a highly modified one, through the company of ETA. These were well-made, reliable movements. They were mass-produced, and they had little bits and pieces of decoration put on them, but they weren't exactly horological masterpieces. A common chronograph movement, the ETA 7750, also known as the Valjoux 7750, a lot of Swiss-made chronographs use it. It's a great movement. Nothing really particularly special about it. It's, you know, it's just a generic movement out there. Rolex makes all their movements in-house. They tend to be extremely reliable movements. They tend to be extremely durable movements. They tend to be high beat movements, i.e. they have high beats per hour, so they have a smooth ticking to them, I guess is a really bland way to put it. And they tend to be reasonably serviceable, although any Swiss watch to service is expensive. So when you're looking at watches in the similar Rolex price range, purchasing a Rolex versus some others is, you might get an extra bit of benefit if you feel that there's value in having one with an in-house movement. Now that's not to say that Rolex uses a very high detailed movement. Like I said, they're very well made, they're very well engineered, they're very well designed, but they're not going to be a Geneva seal movement either, which, if you're not familiar with the Geneva seal movement, Geneva seal is a stamp that they put on movements that have a certain level of craftsmanship to them. And by craftsmanship, I'm not so much talking about engineering or design. I'm talking about like actual decorative detailing and finishing on them. Rolex movements are, in general, relatively plain looking. They're not really meant to be viewed at. That's why Rolex doesn't use a clear case back on their watches. They're very utilitarian. They're very robust movements. They're not something you would show to your friends how pretty they are. I mean, I think they're aesthetically pleasing, but if you looked at, example, a Patek Philippe movement, or even like a Jaeger-LeCoultre movement, you'll notice that there are a lot of movements out there that are prettier than Rolexes. So it tends to be more of a tool movement. But then you could say, well, there are other watches out there that cost considerably less than Rolex that also have in-house movements, right? And the answer is absolutely. Orient Mako, made in Japan. It's got an in-house Orient movement in it. The entire watch is in-house, and it's very well made. I used to have a Rolex Submariner, which had very similar build quality to this watch, and I'd be hard-pressed to explain to someone why they should buy a Rolex Submariner over this watch. This watch is relatively worthless now that I own it. If I still had the Rolex Submariner, it more than likely continue to appreciate in value, and would have the movement would be of higher quality than this, no doubt. It would use a higher grade stainless steel. There would be quality differences, but to an everyday wearer, they'd be hardly noticeable. Now, Rolex Daytona is more recent than the Submariner that I used to own, and it has higher level finishing than that Submariner did. So, I mean, one of the generic things people ask me too is, well, what's the difference between this, a Rolex, and like a standard watch? And features-wise, they're both very similar. They both tend to use flip-lock clasp, but it's just the level of detail and quality. Rolex now has this new higher polished clasp on mine. They've actually come up with a newer one since. The bracelet's got a very nice polishing job on it. The links are all screwed in. A lot of more budget watches have push pins in them. Little stuff like that that's expected of a luxury watch. But if you're not really into watches, there are probably things you're not going to notice. So Rolex makes a wonderful watch. They're very well made. They're very durable. They have their own in-house movement, which, as I said, used to be a pretty big rarity in the Swiss watchmaking world. Now a lot more brands are doing it, so it's not as rare as it was. They hold their value incredibly well. They look very nice. I think they have the Oyster cases, to me, just have a wonderful classic look to them. I own watches that cost $75, and I own watches that cost over $10,000. I like watches, so I'm not really into what it costs. I buy what I like. And so, to answer the question, is a Rolex worth the money? To me, it is worth the money. If you're looking at it for the reasons that I look at it, which is, it's a beautiful piece. It has an incredibly cool movement in it. They make great investments, and that tends to be the reason that I keep them, is because I've done very well with them. They've appreciated in value for me and done quite well. But in terms of having a watch to have a watch, there's really nothing that I can say bad about this Orient Mako, and there's really no reason why this is any less of a watch than my Rolexes are. So hopefully that's been a little bit helpful. Like I said, if you're just looking for something to tell time, no, they're not worth the money. If you're into wristwatches and you want something that's got some cool history to it, or something that uses an in-house movement that's nicely made and you can wear it every day, but you're not really concerned about an investment and you don't want to spend a lot of money, there are plenty of watches like this that will do you just fine. If you have a little more money to spend and you're really into wanting to own a storied brand that's Swiss and you're looking for something that's a good investment and it's a classic piece, Rolexes are wonderful purchases. I've loved every one that I've owned, and they've done very well for me, and I've owned several different Swiss brands. I keep going back to Rolex because they tend to be, in my personal experience, the most reliable watches that I've owned, and they tend to be the easiest to sell and have done the best value-wise for me. So I hope that you found this review helpful. Please feel free to let me know any questions or concerns and or other comments you'd like to share, and stay tuned for more.